There's a thin line between bold reinvention and unnecessary complication. And when I look at Spider-Noir, I can't help but feel like Sony is walking that line very carefully right now. Because on paper, this should be simple. Nicolas Cage returns to a fan-favorite alternate Spider character. We get a gritty 1930 seconds noir aesthetic. A detective-driven, black and white Spider story. That alone should be enough to get people excited. But the deeper you look, the more layered and potentially messy this becomes. Before we begin, would you please support me? Subscribing is free and very important to me. Please subscribe for better analysis and more videos. Spider-Noir has always existed outside the main Marvel continuity. Even in the comics, he operates in an alternate reality, so creative freedom was always going to be part of the deal. Nobody expected a straight adaptation. Still, there are changes here that could genuinely reshape the identity of the character. First, Nicolas Cage is reportedly not playing Peter Parker in this version. Instead, he is said to be portraying Ben Reilly. And to make it even more interesting, he may not even go by Spider-Man, just Spider. That might sound like a minor tweak, but it's not. If this show is loosely connected to Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, where Cage already voiced Spider-Man Noir and audiences assume continuity, suddenly we're dealing with overlapping identities, different names, different versions, possibly different histories. For casual viewers, that can get confusing quickly. Now, I'm not against reinterpretation. Spider-Noir by definition allows experimentation. But when you start shifting foundational elements like the identity behind the mask, you risk detaching the character from what people emotionally recognize. And that brings me to another major question mark in this series. Felicia Hardy, or maybe Cat Hardy. Lee Jun-Lee has been cast as Cat Hardy, a character widely believed to be a new interpretation of Felicia Hardy. It's possible that Cat is simply her stage name, with Felicia being her real identity. But even that ambiguity tells me Sony is playing with expectations. In the original Spider-Man Noir comics, Felicia Hardy is not the traditional jewel thief anti-hero fans know. She owns the Black Cat nightclub, described as the city's most exclusive speakeasy. Her role in that storyline is limited but significant in tone rather than action. Here's the thing, Spider-Noir could easily follow that blueprint. Make Cat Hardy a club owner, a morally gray operator navigating crime and politics in 1930s New York, or they could completely reinvent her. Given how far this adaptation already appears to drift from strict comic canon, it wouldn't shock me if this version of Felicia becomes something entirely different. Maybe she never becomes Black Cat at all. Maybe she adopts another alias like White Widow. Maybe she serves purely as a romantic subplot. And that possibility is exactly why some fans are nervous. Because this could technically be the first true live-action Black Cat done right. The only previous attempt was Felicity Jones playing Felicia in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, and that storyline never fully materialized. Black Cat has historically been one of Peter Parker's most complex romantic interests. Their dynamic is layered, volatile, morally ambiguous. But in the noir setting, that relationship would take on a completely different texture. Dark, fatalistic, possibly tragic. But none of that matters unless she actually suits up. Without the costume, without the alter ego, Cat Hardy is just another nightclub owner in a trenchcoat story. Now, let's zoom out for a second. Because Spider-Noir isn't just another spin-off, it's Sony finally breaking a 12-year pattern. If you strip away Marvel Studios' collaborations and animated Spider-Verse films, Sony's last live-action Spider-focused project was The Amazing Spider-Man 2 in 2014. That's over a decade ago. Since then, Sony has built what it calls the Sony Spider-Man Universe, starting with Venom in 2018. The Venom trilogy was commercially successful, but critically mixed at best. Then came Morbius, Madam Web, Kraven the Hunter, projects that struggled with tone, cohesion, and audience clarity. The biggest issue? Spider-Man himself was largely absent from his own universe. It felt like building a city without its central figure. Spider-Noir changes that. This is the first live-action project in over a decade centered on a Spider variant as the lead. Not a side character, not a villain-adjacent anti-hero, a Spider at the center. That alone is significant. And here's where things get interesting. The first official trailer actually looks promising. Visually, it commits to the noir atmosphere. Heavy shadows, cigarette smoke, rain-soaked streets, a hard-boiled detective tone that leans into the pulp fiction roots of the 1930s. Sony has even confirmed that the series will be available in both black and white and a true tone color version. That's a stylistic gamble, but it signals confidence. The final moment of the trailer, where Spider-Noir swings across a dimly lit skyline, feels cinematic in a way Sony's previous universe entries sometimes didn't. It feels focused, and focus has been missing. There's also a larger strategic implication here. Reports suggest that Spider-Gwen and Spider-Punk spin-offs are in development. If Spider-Noir succeeds, this could be the foundation of a new Spider-centric strategy for Sony. Not villains without Spider-Man, but variants with their own identities. And that could reshape everything, because audiences aren't tired of Spider-Man. They're tired of disconnected experiments. Spider-Noir premieres May 27th on Prime Video and MGM+. And whether it becomes a cult hit or another divisive entry depends on one thing: clarity of vision. If Sony commits fully to the noir tone, respects the emotional core of these characters, and avoids overcomplicating the mythology, this could be the creative reset they desperately need. But if identity confusion and canon ambiguity overwhelm the storytelling, it risks becoming another beautiful concept without a strong spine. I want this to work, not just because Nicolas Cage returning to this role is fun, but because Sony needs a win. And honestly, Spider-Man fans deserve a focused, character-driven story after years of scattered strategy. If this show delivers atmosphere, grounded character work, and a coherent narrative, Spider-Noir could quietly become one of the most interesting Spider projects in years. And if it doesn't, well, we'll be talking about that too. Thanks for watching. Share your thoughts in the comments. This is where these kinds of films come to life. Until the next story, stay curious, be critical, keep your eyes on the screen, and remember, every film you haven't seen is a new film.